So starting in line 195 here, we get this rather odd phrase, nun mende mala panku. Now these are just lots of short words like particles really. So nun means now, and mala means very or much, and panku means basically the same thing. So I translated this phrase as now in very truth, right? It's like now indeed, something like that. And then here we have melanthia, that's the vocative of the name Melanthios, who, if you remember, is the disloyal goat herd. And then he says, you will phulaxes, you will guard, you will keep watch, something like that, future of phulasso. Nukta. Now, nukta is the accusative of nux, meaning the night. And it's accusative because an accusative time phrase is time how long. So you will keep guard for the night, for the whole night. Lying, katalegmenos. Katalego is to lie down. Lying down on any, that means the same as en in later Greek, that just means in or on a malake euner. Okay, malakos is an adjective that means soft, and a euner is a bed. So on a soft bed. And this is rather ironic because it's not actually a soft bed, he's tied to a pillar, so there's a bit of sarcasm here. And then he says, hos eoiken se. Hos means as, and eoiken means something like it is fitting, it is proper for you, and that takes accusative. So as befits you, as is right for you, something like that. And then he says, nor ude will the erigenea. That means the early born one. And erigenea is a reference to the dawn, right? D-A-W-N, dawn. So nor will the early born one, i.e. dawn, who is also described as chrysophronos, with a golden throne. So nor will dawn of the golden throne, escape your notice, escape the notice of you. Then ep erkomene, rising up, coming up, epi plus erkomai, right, sort of going up, from the streams. Para in this case plus genitive means from, and ra'aon are streams, that's the genitive plural, from the streams of ocean, okeanoia. Right. So remember, the ancient Greeks had this idea that basically you had land, and then the earth, right, all the lands of the earth were encircled by one big ocean. Right, and of course, from that, if you look all the way out to that ocean, right, that's where the sun rises up, where the dawn rises up. So he's saying, look, you're going to be pretty uncomfortable, so you're going to be awake all night, guarding phulaxes, although of course he's not really guarding anything, he's just tied up. And because he's going to be awake, he will of course see the dawn when sunrise comes. Okay, and then he says that will happen henika, when, or at the time when you lead. Agineo is basically the same as ago, right? When you lead your goats, aigas, to the suitors, mnesteresi. A mnester is a suitor, so to the suitors, to prepare, penestai, to labor at something, to prepare a feast, daita, a dice is a feast, and this is the accusative case, katadomon, in the house. Okay, so he's saying, the time when you normally bring your goats to help the suitors because you've been betraying Odysseus, right? That's the time when instead you're just going to be tied up in this storeroom. Okay, hos ha, right? In this way, he lelepto had been left, right? Pluperfect of lepo, and althi means there or in that place. So he had been left there. Tathes, that means that's an aorist passive participle, having been fastened, having been tied up, or something like that. Having been fastened in the oloodesmo, the deadly binding, right? So oloos means sort of fatal or deadly or grievous, and desmon is fetters, bondage, something like that. But death. So now we've got the contrast between Melanthius, men on the one hand, and then death, the two of them on the other hand. So the two of them being Eumaeus, the swineherd, and also Philoetius, the cowherd, right? The two good servants, the loyal servants. Right, so but the two, Duntet, Chukea, Duntet, this is a dual form, right? The two of them put on their Chukea, their armor. And epithente, this is again a dual form, a dual participle, having closed the phaenen thuren, right? Phaenos means bright or shining, and a thura or thure is a door. Right, so having closed the bright door, they went, berten, a dual form from bino, they went to Odysseus, ace Odyssea, and then he's described as daiphrona and poikilometen, right? Daiphron is an adjective that means sort of prudent or something, and then poikilometes means cunning. Okay. So, and then in the next sentence, they stood, efestasan, from efhistemi, to stand somewhere. So they stood there, entha. Pneontes, now pneo is to breathe, like pneumatic and things like that. Those words in English that begin with pn, usually a silent p. So pneontes means breathing, and menos means fury. So literally breathing fury. Hoi ep udu, so hoi means those ones. And then epi plus genitive means on, right? So those on the threshold, tessares, being for, we have to imagine a word like being, right? So those on the threshold being for, but those, hoide, but those entos there, that means inside of somewhere, and it takes genitive, and the genitive is domon, the house. So those inside of the house being poles, many, and estloi, right, being brave. Okay, and te kai means sort of both and. So the point is, there's lots of suitors in there who are, quite brave fighters, and on the other hand, there's only 4 of them, right? Odysseus, his son Telemachus, Eumaeus the swineherd, and Philoetius the cowherd. So they are very much outnumbered, right? And this is going to sort of set up the contrast really between them and the suitors. Homer's reminding us that this is a battle against the odds. Okay, so then if we go to line 205, right, and we have a new subject which is Athena, right, the goddess Athena. Okay, so Athena, the Thugater Dios, the daughter of Zeus, right, the name Zeus has this rather irregular genitive form, Dios. Okay, so Athena, daughter of Zeus, Came, elfen, came to them, toisi, right? So toisi, or in later Greek, tois, is the dative plural, right? Came to them. And then ankimolon is an adverb that just means sort of close up or something like that. And in fact, this word epi would probably be going with ep, elthen, right? So came to them close up. Eidomene, this is a participle agreeing with Athena. So she is seeming or like being similar to, and it takes dative, being similar to mentor, mentori, both in form and also in voice. Okay, so airmen and airden means both one thing and something else, just like te and kai. Right? Now, demas means sort of form or shape, and it's accusative because it means like both in terms of form and also der kai in terms of voice. Okay, so auder is a voice, and auden in the accusative means sort of in terms of or in respect of the voice. Right, so in other words, Athena is impersonating, she's looking like this friend of Odysseus's called Mentor. Okay, and Odysseus, de Odysseus, rejoiced, ger thersen, he rejoiced, having seen her. So idon, aorist participle from horao, to see, and the object is ten, right? Having seen her, he rejoiced. And Kai, he said, epe, muthon, right? Like this word, this speech. And he basically asks Mentor for help. He says, Mentor, it's the vocative case, Mentor, amunon aren. Okay, amunon is an imperative from amuno, which means to sort of ward something off, right? To keep something at bay. So he says, ward off aren, right? And aren means destruction. So ward off destruction. In other words, help me, basically. Okay, and menersai, that's another imperative, which means remember, right? So remember your, and it takes genitive, remember your philoia heteroia. Sorry, philoia hetaroia. So philoia meaning dear and hetaroia meaning comrade. So remember your dear comrade. And he's referring here to himself. Right, so remember me, you could say, remember me, your dear comrade, who, hos, resdeskon, used to do you, se, good things. So literally, remember your dear comrade who used to do you good things. Or in my translation, I said, who has been accustomed to do you good. And then he says, you are, SC, this is a sort of Homeric form of A, right? In later Greek, you are would be A, but in Homer it's SC. Okay, you are homelikien, that means sort of the same age or a companion, something like that. And then moi is the dative of ego, right? It means to or for me. Right, so you are a companion to me. Okay, and then we have this very common phrase in Homer, hos fat, so he spoke. Oiomenos, that means thinking, and it introduces an accusative and infinitive. So thinking that it was emen, that's a Homeric version of enai, to be. So thinking that it was la osoon Athene, right? La osoon means something like army rousing or something. Army rousing Athena. So in other words, because he's very smart, Odysseus sees through the disguise. Right? So he's pretending to go along with it, right? He's pretending that she is actually his friend Mentor, but he realizes somehow that it's actually the goddess Athena. Okay, but there, the suitors, mneesteres, the suitors, on the other side, heterothen, they shouted together, homokleon, they were shouting together, en megaroisi, in the halls. Okay. And first, protos, first, agelaos, rebuked her, enenipe, ten, right? Enenipe, rebuked or chastised. And then the object is ten, which is her, referring to Athena. Presumably Agelaus does not realize that it's the goddess Athena. He thinks it's actually some mortal man, Mentor. And Agelaus is also described here as Damastorides. Okay, and this is a word, this is a kind of word that we call a patronymic, which is where you refer to someone by the name of their father. So Damastorides means son of Damastor. Okay, and that takes us to the end of the page.